Hey guys, today we're towing the Vikings. So, I want to show you a picture of a Viking, a real one, not the one like Miss King. And that would be this gentleman right here. See his lovely sword, much nicer than my plastic one with duct tape on it because my boys break everything. And you notice his fur here because these guys are Norse people. They're from Scandinavia, so it's very cold where they come from. Rough and tumble kind of guys. Okay, so that's what we're talking about today. So our essential questions are: why did the Viking settlements in Newfoundland fail? And what's the significance of Ptolemy? Okay, so you need to know those two things. So we're going to start with discussion about the Vikings, and then we're going to move into whether or not the world was round and how the Vikings set off an exploration mission where others start to join in, and that's where Columbus comes into play. Before I do that, I want to show you a video, and it's just 2-3 minutes here, 3 minutes or so. And it is right here. It'll show you some of the things we're going to talk about.
The Vikings as barbarians, pirates, and pillagers. But we bet you didn't know there's much more to their story. The Vikings first made a name for themselves in AD 793 when a group of them attacked a monastery off the coast of what is now northeastern England. Over the next 2 centuries, they spread through Europe, the North Atlantic, and beyond during what is known as the Viking Age. They skillfully navigated the seas and waterways of Europe in their famous wooden longships, staging hit-and-run raids of coastal cities and towns. The Vikings weren't all part of a single race, and they didn't have a single ruler or central government. Instead, there were many different groups, each led by a different chieftain. Hailing from Scandinavia, they left their barren homelands to seek fortune in other lands. It was their willingness to destroy institutions and objects with religious value that earned the Vikings the enduring hatred of Christian Europe, who considered them uncivilized, violent barbarians. But in reality, they were much more than that. The Vikings were some of the most skilled seamen of the time, and their longships were lighter, faster, and more maneuverable than any other crafts of the day. Viking merchants peacefully traded Scandinavian furs, timber, and other goods with countries as far away as the Mediterranean and the Middle East. Some people in the countries they traded with or even invaded came to respect the Vikings, and even enlisted them as allies. Swedish Vikings, known for their strength, formed the elite Varangian Guard, which protected the Byzantine emperors in 11th century Constantinople. And Slavic peoples in Eastern Europe hired Vikings to collect taxes and help them fight off Turkish warriors. In Ireland, the Viking settlements in Dublin became one of the leading ports in all of Europe. And by the end of the 9th century, Vikings had conquered nearly all of England. Their influence can be seen clearly in place names and personal names in the region, and on the English language itself. The Viking Age had a tremendous impact outside of Europe as well. In the late 10th century, Norse Viking Eric the Red founded a colony on Greenland that flourished for over 400 years. His son, Leif the Lucky, would go even further, landing in what is now Canada nearly 500 years before Christopher Columbus made his first transatlantic trip. The Viking Age may have lasted less than 300 years, but in that time, these complicated people made an important mark on Western society and the world. In a whole lot of ways we bet you didn't know.
Okay. So they mentioned in there about how the Vikings they traded furs and things like that, and they went pretty far out, even into the Middle East. So it says, when European exploration is discussed, most people think of Columbus. Even in America, most people think first of Columbus, but he was not the first. And that's what that video showed you. The first were the Vikings, the Norse people. They're from Scandinavia. They're going to arrive in AD 700 in longboats, special ships that they built. They were master builders, ship makers, and they're going to use these ships to cross pretty treacherous waterways and very cold water in the northern Atlantic. So I want to show you a few pictures. Here is well, I want to show you this first because you need to understand where Scandinavia is for any of it to make sense. So, this is a map of that time period, but for present days, this is France, this is Spain, this is England, which it says England. All right, this is Scandinavia. So we're looking at Europe here. All right, there's Greenland. So this is Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden. All right, so Norse people, Norwegian, and they're going to, these folks are going to leave here, which is what the map's showing you. They're going to be established in this area, and they're going to leave and move out. In some of these territories, they will settle. This is what would be present day Russia, or like it says Lithuanians, Lithuania, countries like that that used to be part of the old USSR. And some of these areas they would just raid and pillage, like take things. They even go as far south as Italy, which that's kind of interesting, and make their way into England. It mentioned in the video that they move in and settle into Greenland, and then Leif Erikson, the very famous Viking, probably the most famous, is going to go around Greenland into what is present day Canada. Okay, so anyway, this is Scandinavian. I want to show you their boats. This is really cool. So they built all this by hand, all wooden, and here's the mast for their sail. And you see how wide the interior of the boat is for stability reasons. But, not too deep here, fairly shallow, so they could get into those inlets, but a really, really cool vessel. There's another one, and this is just a painting, but it kind of gives you a depiction of how they used it, because they would use the oars on the side to help maneuver this ship, and also, of course, the sails. So those are two kind of cool pictures. Okay, so Leif Erikson is going to lead 35 Vikings in Newfoundland, and then at that point, with his father having sailed into Greenland, established there a colony, he thought he was going to do that in Newfoundland, but the group fails due to opposition by the Native Americans. It says he didn't have really advanced weaponry that could overpower the natives. I mean, he only had 35 men with him, and the natives were immeasurable. There were so many, so they greatly outnumbered him, and he just didn't have the weaponry to take them down. So that colony does not come to be, I guess you could say. Another picture with that, well, let me show you. Here's a monument to Leif Erikson because of his Viking travels, and get rid of him. And again, I'll show you the raid. So they're going to leave here. His father went to Greenland. He's going to continue going off of this map, and I'll show you one more. So over here would have been where that map was coming through. Over here's England, and then you go through past Greenland, and then he would have landed here in Newfoundland. To put it in perspective, this is Maine in the United States, the state of Maine today. And you see the further northern point of the United States. Here is Michigan, here is Maine. So Newfoundland certainly directly north of Maine today. So he lands in basically Canada, as we know. All right, but that's what it was saying here, that he could not overpower the natives and take them down. So what happens is, says for the next 400 years following the Vikings arriving in this new world, there's no new evidence the Europeans traveled to the Americans. Some historians believe it's a combination of wars in Europe, the Crusades and all those things, and then others think they think it's that, and they also think that there's just this lack of interest for a while in it. The Renaissance in Europe, mid-1400, renews this interest in the world's geography and what lies out there. Most of that came from Claudius Ptolemy. So it says by 1400, most educated Europeans knew the world was round, but they did not know all the continents that lay out there. It says 12 centuries earlier, Sometime earlier, Greek-educated Egyptian geographer and astronomer Claudius Ptolemy had drawn maps of a round world, complete with 360 lines of longitude. So he was finding exact location. That was discovered in 1475. So now the idea that the world is round, we're not going to fall off when we go to the edges, certainly made explorers less fearful. And also, because of this map, they had a better way of calculating where they wanted to go and how they needed to get there. However, it did underestimate the magnitude of the world, meaning how large it was and the continents that were out there. So to prove that point, oh, here he is. Let me show you. So you get the idea. He's an astronomer. The stars in the sky, okay, the measurements. And here is his map. So I know you're going to say, well, it looks pretty flat to me. Well, obviously, he could not literally draw a round map. But he was arguing with the lines that he's going to put on the map. He's going to argue that the map, in fact, curves around. And you see here, this is, well, there's two areas I think are, considering the lack of technology they had, pretty close to accurate. Europe and Africa. You can recognize it. This area out here, not done too well. I'm assuming he thought, it says Asia. See how large he made it. And then, interestingly, he's got South America on the map, but North America very little, and that kind of represented the unknown. Almost as if Asia curls in over here, maybe. So anyway, he's just not familiar with these new continents, as you can see. So the Vikings are going to bring this renewed sense of urgency once they sail. Then years later, people are going to get interested again after the Renaissance. They're going to look back at what the Vikings have accomplished and start exploring again using Ptolemy's round world philosophy. It says next, Columbus would step up to the plate, and he would go on a voyage, and that would change so many things, bringing in the Columbian exchange. Part of that is bringing disease and things to these natives. And with his success, more and more explorers come, which means more and more explorers spread more disease, and that's one way they're able to take down the natives. It says, why did the Viking settlements in Newfoundland fail? Remember, it's because the Vikings had very few men compared to all the natives and not enough firepower to take them out. What's the significance of Ptolemy? He convinces the world that people that the world is round, and he also encourages this exploration with his maps. All right, so you need to finish this up by writing your summary, and then when you're finished with that, you can turn that in to me. All right, see you guys.